Hello students, hope you all are doing well. Today we are going to discuss a topic from unit number 8, that is foreign sector. And today we are going to discuss objectives and functions of WTO. Objectives and functions of WTO. The full form of WTO is World Trade Organization. Alright, so in this class we are first going to discuss the introduction of WTO, like what is actually World Trade Organization, when it was formed, where it was formed, for what purpose it was formed, that we'll discuss in introduction. Then we are going to discuss the objectives of WTO. Then next we are going to discuss the functions of WTO. So what is our first step? To go to the introduction. So let us see. India became founder member of WTO by signing WTO agreement on December 30, 1994. So India, our country, have became a member. Our country, that is India, became a member, founder member of WTO. How? By signing the WTO agreement. When? On December 30, 1994. So India have became the founder member of WTO by signing the WTO agreement on December 30, 1994. So until and unless you sign a particular agreement or contract, you cannot become the member of so and so organization. Is it right? If you want to be a part of my organization, then you need to sign on all the agreements saying that you agree with all the rules and regulations which I have mentioned. So in the same way, India have also signed the WTO agreement and became the member of World Trade Organization. When? On December 30, 1994. And not only India. I'm just not talking about a country called as India, but apart from India, the WTO agreement was signed by 104 member nations of GATT. How many? 104 member nations of GATT. Now you have seen this term for the first time, GATT. That means General Agreement under Trade and Tariffs. Briefly we'll read about this term in our upcoming next class. So till that, just we'll go with the introduction. So it came into force on January 1st, 1995. Don't get confused. India have signed the agreement on December 30, 1994 by becoming its member. But when did it came into force? On January 1st, 1995. See, 1 year of December 30, 1994, it was signed, and we came into force on January 1st, 1995. So WTO, that is World Trade Organization's headquarters are at Geneva, Switzerland. Where is it located? Geneva, Switzerland. So this is all about the introduction. If you want, we can just recall it once again. So see on the board, India became the founder member of WTO by signing the WTO agreement on December 30, 1994. So this WTO agreement was signed by 104 member nations of GATT. It came into force on January 1st, 1995, and its headquarters are located at Geneva, Switzerland. So introduction part is completed. Now you understood when the India have signed the agreement. then how many other members are there with WTO, then when did it came into force, and where are its headquarters. Now let us go to the main concept, that is what are the objectives of WTO, World Trade Organization. Let us see the first point, raising the standard of living. SOL means standard of living. So what are the objectives of WTO? The first one is to raise the standard of living. Then second one is to raise the income. Third one is to raise the employment. Fourth one is expanding production. Fifth one is optimum utilization of resources. So all these things are needed to be increased. That is the first objective of WTO. What are those things? First one is standard of living. Second is income. Third is employment. Fourth is we need to expand our production. Then fifth is we need to make optimum utilization of our resources. Means without wasting anything, you need to use it completely. So this is our first objective of WTO. The second objective, introducing sustainable development. This is very essential. Like in unit number 4, we have read a complete topic on sustainable development. So whatever resources you have, without destroying anything, without causing any harm, you need to make use of that, and also you need to pass it on to your future generations. That is the second objective of WTO, that is to introduce sustainable development. Alright. Then third one, taking steps especially for the development of least developed ones. Means there are different countries. Apart from that, which countries are least developed, means very less developed, we need to first take steps to make them developed, to make them bring to the development process. This is the third objective, that to take steps especially for the development of least developed ones. So 1, 2, 3 are done. First one was raising standard of living, income, employment, etc. Second was important things I have highlighted with blacking, that is about sustainable development. We need to introduce sustainable development. Third one, we must especially take steps for the development of least developed ones. Then fourth one, encouraging nations to adopt non-discriminatory measures. Means discrimination, the meaning of this term is to discriminate two persons, to show some kind of partiality or some inequality. These are the meanings of this term discriminatory. But according to World Trade Organization, we must adopt non-discriminatory measures, that you should not give most preference to some countries, you should not ignore some countries, you must give equal importance. That is nothing but non-discriminatory measures. So we need to encourage nations to adopt non-discriminatory measures. Fifth point, it establishes procedures to solve trade disputes among members. Like it happens many times that between friends there will be a small argument, or sometimes it may lead to a fight. So the synonyms of fight, argument, etc. are also as disputes. There are some disputes between two nations, and that will be solved by WTO. Is that clear? This is the fifth objective of WTO. So we have completed our introduction and objectives. So we have completed introduction and objectives, and now we are going to continue the functions of WTO. You can see the first point here is to ensure that trade flows as smoothly, freely and predictably as possible. That means whatever the trade is going on between two countries, that must be flowing very smoothly. Alright, there should not be any fights between two countries based on the trade, like buying and selling of goods and services. So what WTO is saying, that what is its main function is to ensure that the trade flows as smoothly, freely and predictably as possible. Predictably means how you have assumed, what you have imagined. In the same way, the trade must be flowing very smoothly without any conflicts, disputes or any argument. The second function is administering and implementing multilateral and plurilateral agreements contained in the Act. Multilateral, plurilateral. At the end here, I have written some meanings for you for clear understanding. You can see what is the meaning of multilateral: agreeing by 3 or more parties. When 3 parties or more than 3 parties agree on a same point, that is called as multilateral. If I say plurilateral, 4 or more than that number of parties are agreeing on some point, that is called as plurilateral. So what is the function of WTO? To make sure that the multilateral and plurilateral agreements which are contained in the Act, whether they are implemented or not. For example, if I have, after every class, I'll be asking you to learn the topic and write it for 3 times. Alright, you are following or not, that depends on your own honesty. But I also need to check whether what work I am giving is implemented by you or not. Understood the meaning of implementation? Yes. So in the same way, WTO also will be administering as well as implementing the multilateral and plurilateral agreements which are contained in the final Act. The third one, acting as a forum for multilateral trade negotiations. Forum, the meaning is written here, meeting where ideas and views are exchanged. So it is a kind of meeting where the ideas, the point of view of different persons can be exchanged through suggestions, etc. That is called as forum. So WTO is acting as a forum for whom? For the multilateral trade negotiations. Like from multiple countries we are doing trade. What is the meaning of negotiation? It is discussion before an agreement. Like before I sign an agreement, I'll be first discussing with my family members. So that discussion is known as negotiation. So the World Trade Organization is acting as a forum, okay, where ideas of people are getting exchanged. So in a multilateral trade negotiations, like what kind of trade shall we do, what rules and regulations we need to follow, how much goods shall be imported, how many should be exported, how much tax we need to pay, all these things are discussed in a meeting where the World Trade Organization is acting as a forum, as a main head of the discussion. Coming to fourth point, seeking to resolve trade disputes. Already I said in objectives, disputes means any kind of fight or argument. So if there are any trade disputes, the WTO will be seeking to resolve those disputes, means it will be finding some ways how to solve these disputes between two nations. This is the fourth objective. Fifth one is overseeing national trade policy. Overseeing means to supervise. Okay, like for example, the students will be doing experiments in laboratory. The lecturer who is there will be supervising them, whether are they doing right or not, are they doing any mistake or not. So it is supervising. In the same way, WTO will also be supervising the national trade policies, whether they are going rightly or not. Then sixth point, cooperating with international institutions such as IMF and World Bank. What are international institutions? IMF and World Bank. Full form of IMF is what is written over here? Cooperating international institutions. IMF means monetary fund. Alright, so International Monetary Fund, and this is World Bank. So WTO will be cooperating with these international institutions. Is that clear? So these are the 6 functions of WTO. The first one was to ensure that trade flows as smoothly, freely and predictably as possible. Second one was whether to administer and implement multilateral and plurilateral agreements which are contained in the final act. This topic is more of by hearting and less of understanding. The third one is to act as a forum for multilateral trade negotiations. Then fourth one, seeking to resolve trade disputes. Fifth one, overseeing national trade policies. Sixth one, cooperating with international institutions such as IMF and World Bank. So the topic have completed. We have discussed introduction, objectives and functions of WTO, and it have come to an end. Hope you have understood it. Please learn and by heart it for 3 times at least and write it without seeing once. See you in the next classes with some more and interesting topics. Till that, stay healthy, stay safe and always keep practicing every day.